All right, let's get KC Joyner in here. One thought on every game, including the little deeper look at the Eagles and the Patriots. And yesterday, the Eagles up 10-0, KC. They're moving the ball. They're going down the field. And then what happened?
I couldn't understand. I mean, they were up 10-0. It's fantastic, but I could not understand. They went 12 personnel like we talked about last week, but I mean 12 personnel where you're going 2-by-2 sets and you got everybody on the line of scrimmage and you're going to drop back 48 times in the game and you're only going to run the ball 17. And the thing is, we went back and said, fine, we're going to spread the defense out and we're going to throw the ball a lot. Hey, great. Your quarterback got sacked 5 times. He got hit 12 times. You had a 38.9% what I call good blocking rate, which is terrible in the ground game, and you didn't even average 6 yards per attempt when you gave your running backs good blocking. The game plan was just atrocious all the way around. I cannot understand why they did what they did.
Well, he said that we were looking for that explosive play. That's something that he brought up in the press conference today. I don't know how you look for do the Eagles have explosive personnel?
They don't. You have an offense that doesn't have a tear the top off the defense kind of player. Ertz, hey, look, you targeted tight end 17 times. Ertz had 11 targets. So fine, you got the tight end involved. That's good. They were missing Patrick Chung, the starting strong safety. Okay, fine. You want to target the tight end. That's great. But you don't have big play guys. You have to put together 12-play drives. So you've got the heavy personnel to be able to do it. You can go 12, put 8 guys on the line and start pounding these guys because that's what New England doesn't do well against, and they cover and rush the passer really well. So they played right into their hands with the game plan in my opinion.
Give me your thoughts on the final play and catch attempt by Nelson Aguilar. Is that a ball is that a play you got to make? Why doesn't he? Number one, why doesn't he make the play? And is that a ball that you say, you know what, it's going to be a tough play, but you gotta make it?
I think you got to make it, and I think that he doesn't judge the ball in the air that well, in my opinion, so I think he kept going. I think a receiver let's just say Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, a top-notch receiver, I think they stop and try and make a jump on that ball where he kept trying to run through it. It's like you're near the end line, you got to stop and adjust and try and get it, and maybe you'll get a pass interference penalty if you don't get it because the cornerback is in trail position. So I just don't think he judges that kind of ball very well.
What'd you think of Wentz yesterday?
I think I say it's so hard to judge it because I don't think he looked very good. But when you're only giving him 6 blockers and you're asking him to run that type of spread offense against the Patriots defense that you shouldn't do that with, and you get him sacked and hit as often as you did, and again you're talking 5 sacks, 12 hits, and he scrambled the ball 3 times, so you're getting hit on those plays too. He's just taking that kind of a beating. He's already not the most durable quarterback in the league, and you're going to put him in that situation against that defense. I thought it was asking too much of him.
Yeah, I know. One thing is, it seems that he can make the exciting, fantastic play, but it's the pitch and catch that yesterday at least. And, throughout the course of the season, he has had some erratic days. But I thought yesterday the easy pitch and catch was where he had most of his issues. He
did. He had and look at there, Arcega-Whiteside making that catch in the fourth quarter where, Wentz had to scramble on the end zone and find him. Yeah, playground football. He's really good at playground football. But playground football, you want that skill in your quarterback. It's a very valuable skill to have. But that's not how you build an offense. And maybe they were expecting we can go play playground football and he can hit a big play. And I'm still scratching my head and go, you expected to have him play some playground football against a Belichick Patriots defense to take out the Baltimore game? It might be the best Belichick Patriots defense we've ever seen. And you're expecting to hit big plays against that? I mean, try and go percentages. And still, you've got power guys. Goddard is I get throwing 6 passes to Goddard, but Goddard's a better blocker than he is a receiver. So why aren't you having him out there with another lineman and trying to pound this defense? Because it's not like New England was loading the box and saying you can't run the ball. They were just winning point-of-attack battles because you were trying to play in space.
Casey, do you think that Doug Peterson has struggled to figure out an ideal game plan and identity for this offense since Carson Wentz went down in L.A. back in 2017? Because it feels like that watching him.
It feels like he fights what the team should be. I remember watching one of those Do Your Job documentaries on the Patriots. I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, and Josh McDaniels said that toward the end of the season they were trying to do a bunch of spread offense, and finally Belichick came in and said, let's do what we do well. We power run the ball well. Let's keep doing that. And you could tell McDaniels was like, yeah, we're not scheming everybody. We're just beating them off the ball. And you could tell he was a little distaste. He was saying it like, I really don't want to do this. I'm a smart play caller, but it's like, that's what you should do. And I'm looking at the Eagles going, that's what you guys should be. That's who you are right now. It's what you should be at least. But I don't think Peterson wants to do it because the play callers go, well, if we just power run the ball and we're calling all these power run plays, I I can't use my creativity. And I'm thinking, well, if you were the Baltimore Ravens, you can use creativity in your run game. And if you don't think you can creatively put together a running game plan, maybe you need to rethink your ability to put together a game plan.
Is it more on Carson right now? Because we had this discussion earlier. I just don't feel like he's as dynamic as he once was. Now, it's not a knock on Carson Wentz, but an elite quarterback figures out ways to elevate the guys around him and get wins in big spots. And it, once again, similar to the last question, it doesn't feel like he's been able to do that since 2017 post ACL injury. Is that on Carson, or is that a combination of the play calling and his skill set?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it is that the play calling, I don't think that they can trust him the same way. I hesitate to say it because he doesn't have some of the same receivers he had before. It's not like he's got a great receiving core yet. I keep thinking like Phillip Rivers, maybe not this year, but in some of his best years, you could look at his receiving core and go, how are you getting the production you're getting out of these guys? You got a bunch of nobodies on your receiving core, and he can still hit all the big plays. And I think that they don't call necessarily those plays for once, but I say that now. Look at throwing the Nelson Aguilar. And Aguilar yesterday looked like he did a couple of years ago when it was, why is this guy our number 3 receiver? And you see that going, well, if he's throwing to Aguilar, I don't know how much of it I can put on Wentz because Aguilar is just not what he should be. But I can't ask Aguilar against the Patriots defense. I don't want to ask Aguilar to do that, and they did, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. She throw that many targets his way.
KC Joyner is with us. Real quick, defensively for the Eagles, how far have they come from maybe 3-4 weeks ago, and what is leading the change in their performance?
I like the way they looked in defense yesterday, but I counted 9 plays where the Patriots either missed a pass, where Brady was either inaccurate with his passes, or the receiver dropped the pass. It mostly short passes, but still 9 plays where it wasn't an Eagles player who was making the play, it was the Patriots messing up. So as much as I like what they did yesterday, they didn't do well against the run. They allowed like a 43.5% good blocking rate. That's not a good rate for them. The Eagles are normally getting the team down to the 30, so the Patriots were run blocking quite well. So didn't like what they were doing there. I like the coverage. Mills had his best game in a while, but I'll tell you this too: the special teams, mistake after mistake, the fumble, the letting the ball get down in the 2-yard line. It was ugly, and that last play where Scott just lets the ball go over his head instead of fielding it, it's like just gap after
Casey,
gap.
he did the opposite. I mean, earlier he's fielding balls inside the 10 that you're supposed to let bounce, and then that one he lets bounce that you're supposed to field.
Exactly. It's part of it. It comes down to coaching. If you're making mistakes like that, I mean, you can blame it some on the player, but if the player is making a mistake as to when I should field the ball and when I shouldn't, to get somebody else in there. And if you don't have another option for the guys making the mistakes, that's on you too, because you got to develop somebody to get back there.
All right, let's get one thought on each game in Week 11. KC Joyner is with us. It was another wild week. It always is, but, man, some of these scores you're just like, wait, what? Dallas 35, Detroit 27, Prescott 444. Their defense has shown some cracks, especially in the passing game, but Dak Prescott, I guess you got to say Dak's in the MVP race.
Oh, he's definitely in the MVP race, and you're right, Dallas's defense is not what it was, and I still keep thinking, you guys, great, you got Gallup, you got Cooper, you can throw the ball a ton, you've got Dak playing as well as he is, you got a great play caller, you guys don't get into shootout games, that's not the way you're going to win. You need to get back to where a couple years ago where you were power running the ball in Detroit just they can't figure out how to get into the power games either. Their secondary is as terrible as there is in the league, and they can't get any kind of a pass rush. Patricia's been a disaster there.
Hey, Nick Foles came back, but it wasn't good enough. They got blown out on the road at Indianapolis, 33-13. Foles had a touchdown early, but that's about all the scoring they could provide.
And I wonder if they go one touchdown late, and they weren't doing much during the game. If he keeps struggling. Quarterback controversy? I mean, do you get back to Minshew? I don't know. I mean, I got to give Foles more than one game to do this, especially a tough road divisional game. But the Colts are showing that they're still they've got a tough defense and a strong running game, and they're winning without receivers either. So I got to give them kudos.
All right, Buffalo at Miami, and the Bills, 37 points for the Bills. All right, their offense finally showed up. They took care of business. This is the kind of game that if Buffalo loses, you're thinking, I can't buy into this Bills team. But was this a convincing enough win to buy into the Bills?
It is, because you're supposed to win these games. The great teams, and I don't say the Bills are a great team, but great teams are supposed to go up if they play bad competition. They're supposed to beat them by a lot of points. If we go through NFL history, that generally tends to be the trend. So when you get to a game like this, you should win big. If you don't, it's a bad sign for you. So it is a good omen going forward. However, I still want to see if they can put up more than 17 points against a good defense, because so far I haven't seen them do that much.
All right, let's go to Minnesota. 20 points. They had to come roaring back. McCousins, 319. Diggs with a big game leads the way. Minnesota with a scare against Denver.
I swear, as soon as they scored that first touchdown in the second half, you could see the Broncos were like, we're going to lose this game. You could see the Broncos deflating. It was plus you read that report about what's going on with their coach. The team doesn't believe in their coach and things. I think Fangio needs to go back to Chicago after this year, because Chicago misses him, and he obviously misses that defense because he can't do anything out there.
All right, let's go to Tampa, where New Orleans jumps back and is able to get a win, 34-17. Michael Thomas just beast mode every time he faces Tampa Bay.
Can't guard Mike. It's incredible. I mean, he has a chance of breaking Harrison's record for the reception of the season. I think it's 140 and change that Harrison put up years ago. I think he's got a shot at that. And the Bucs, I mean, the Bucs have a terrible defense, but their offense just keeps putting them in these bad situations. And I think the Bucs are going to have to make a serious question of if they keep Winston or not. You can't have a guy who keeps making all the mistakes he's making. You can't win anywhere in the NFL. You got a quarterback making that many mistakes.
All right, Carolina loses at home here. Atlanta wins again, and an impressive fashion again. If Atlanta wins out, I would imagine they would be in pretty good shape here. If they're playing well enough. I read something yesterday. If they win out, they would be like 8-4 in the conference, 6-0 in the division, and they're playing well enough that it wouldn't be surprising.
It wouldn't be. And amazing, we've got the coach fired at this point, and then he's going to go out and keep playing like this. And I thought, hey, when they won last week and beat New Orleans, I thought, okay, well, hey, look, it's a big emotional win, divisional. There's no way you could do that in back-to-back weeks. This shows that they're getting to that level. And by the way, they're working around some defensive deficiencies. They've got their defense starting to get fixed, and that's a big plus for them. So, I think they're going to be a scary team down the stretch.
All right, you look at Houston-Baltimore. We thought that was going to be the game of the week. The only thing it was a blowout of the week, 41-17, Lamar Jackson again. And I guess, where do you put Jackson in your MVP race?
I still put him second behind Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's just doing, I think that you can do more things with Wilson, because right now Jackson is in an offense that the league hasn't figured out. It's not taking anything away from him. Maybe like 1A and 1B. They're real close. I still give Wilson a bit of the edge, but nobody's figured out that offense. And until they figure out that offense, these kind of things are going to keep happening. Right now, Baltimore, if you ask me Super Bowl favorites right now, they would be number one on the list just based on where they're at right this second.
Okay, Arizona, San Francisco. This was the game Arizona looked like they were going to win, and then San Francisco, Lake Garoppolo, 424. You know, that San Francisco offense, people don't really notice it, but man, 36 points yesterday. They're one of the top scoring offenses in the league. Their defense, though, what's going on there?
They've got some problems with defense. Sherman's been struggling of late, and I think that's, again, another team that did. They're a power football team. They don't want to get into shootout games, and Garoppolo's making some errors, too. They're starting to show some cracks, and they need to get those things fixed, because I don't think Sherman's going to be a liability in coverage, but he was playing shutdown earlier this year, and now you're looking at him going, okay, now he's just a good cornerback, not shutdown, and that can make all the difference in a defense like that.
All right, next up, Cincinnati, Oakland. Oakland, fought tough game. Cincinnati made it ugly, but Oakland gets out of there with a win. They get to 6-4.
They do. I would actually put Oakland, if they're not top 10, and I mean like 10, I don't mean 5, I mean like 10. If they're not 10 in the top 10, they're top 12 in the league right now. They're playing that well. Getting back home was a huge boom for them, because they had like 6 games in a row, whatever, on the road. It was ridiculous to have that sort of a schedule. So to get home was a huge plus for them. And I think that they're a team. I think they could be a 10-win team and be a team you not going to want to see in the playoffs, given the way they're playing on both sides of the ball.
New England, Philadelphia, as we talked about, that score also 17-10, as you know. Tom Brady did not have a great game. Carson Wentz did not have a great game either. And then last night, another game that had a 17-point output, the Rams and Chicago. What's going on with the Rams offense?
The Rams offense has offensive line issues. They've been in trouble all year. Plus Everett was banged up. They're missing 2 receivers. They got Cooks and Woods were both out. So if you miss a problem. Defense, they looked good last night, but consider the opponent. And I still, as I mentioned earlier, I think that Fangio in Denver is showing he's not a good head coaching candidate. If I'm Chicago and he is available at all, I bring him back as soon as possible, because their formula was great defense and it helps the offense, and their defense has taken a step back and hurt their whole team. So Fangio back Chicago if I'm them.
Trubisky 190. He was not very good in the game. Got benched late in the game, and obviously Gurley showed he had a nice game. He had about 100 yards. First time that he's really had a nice game. So Rams stay alive in the playoff picture. Bears look like they are waiting for next year. Then tonight in Mexico City, it's Kansas City against the Chargers. Give us a couple thoughts on this game and how you see it. I mean, the Chargers, man, they're just a tough team to read.
They are a tough team to read. They have a plus for them is that when I'm grading all the secondary players, I mention red, yellow, green all the time on the show. I've got both of the Kansas City safeties rated as green-rated players, meaning you can go vertical. I think the Chargers need to try and make this game a shootout and try and see if they can win that type of a contest, because any other type of contest beginning with Kansas City, I think is a bad move for them. At Kansas City, they can't stop teams from getting into shootouts with them this year, and that was their Achilles heel last year. I think it's going to cost them this year, too. I still think they'll win, but it's going to be a high-scoring, fun game tonight.
All right, there's one thought on every game from KC Joyner, and, of course, the Eagles and the Patriots. Tough one there, and obviously the Eagles had some opportunities. They just couldn't make the big play, and they dropped them to 5-5. KC Joyner, everybody here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Thanks, pal.
Appreciate it.
All right, KC Joyner, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda Hotline.